investigators are sitting in a room, watching hours of security footage from the night a 20-year-old girl vanished. They've been at it for hours. And then, for just a split second, they see her, a shadowy figure running in the distance. And 20 seconds later, a black car rolls past. Then again. That one piece of footage is about to break the whole case open. Mollie Tibbetts was exactly the kind of person you'd expect to see on a summer evening jog in a small town in Iowa. She was 20, studying psychology at the University of Iowa, and Brooklyn, Iowa was her hometown. Her boyfriend Dalton was away for work, so she was staying at his place and looking after his dog while he was gone. On the evening of July 18th, 2018, she texted her mom to say she might come over for dinner later, then laced up her sneakers and headed out for a run, the same thing she'd done dozens of times before. She never came home. When she still hadn't shown up by the next morning, her family reported her missing, and what followed was one of the biggest searches in Iowa's history. Volunteers, investigators, helicopters, search dogs. Her face went up on yard signs and store windows across the entire state. A reward for information kept climbing until it hit nearly $400,000. For weeks, nothing. Then, investigators went back to the security footage. A homeowner near Mollie's jogging route had a camera outside their house, and when detectives pulled the footage from the night she disappeared, they sat with it for hours. And there she was, a dark figure running past in the background. Then, 20 seconds later, a black Chevy Malibu with chrome door handles drives past. Then it comes back, then again. Over the next 20 minutes, that same car drives up and down the road near where Mollie was running, multiple times. They had their lead. It took some time to track down the car, but on August 16th, almost a full month after Mollie disappeared, a sheriff's deputy on his way home from work spotted it on a local road. He pulled over the driver, a 24-year-old farm worker named Christian Bahena Rivera, who had been living and working in the area for years under a false identity. The deputy later said Rivera seemed completely calm, nonchalant, like nothing was wrong. When investigators brought him in and showed him the surveillance footage, his story started to come apart. He eventually admitted that he had seen Mollie running that evening and had followed her in his car. He got out and started running near her. When she realized someone was following her, she pulled out her phone and told him she was going to call the police. He says after that, he blacked out, and the next thing he remembers is being on a rural road with an earpiece from her headphones in his lap. He looked in the trunk of his car, and she was there, bleeding. He led investigators to a cornfield about 12 miles from where Mollie had been jogging. She had been stabbed to death. Her DNA was found in the trunk of his car. Rivera was convicted of first-degree murder in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. At trial, he tried to claim that two masked men had forced him to drive that night while they carried out the attack. The jury took 7 hours to reject that story completely. Faith Hedgepeth's case started the same way, with a camera, a nightclub, and a young woman who had no idea she was being watched for the last time. But this story goes somewhere very different. Faith was 19 years old, a biology student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and one of the most driven people in her family. She grew up as a member of the Hollywa-Saponi tribe in Warren County, North Carolina, and had earned a Gates Millennium Scholarship to attend UNC. She wanted to be the first in her family to graduate from college, and she was on her way to doing exactly that. People who knew her described someone warm, sharp, and full of plans. On the evening of September 6, 2012, Faith and her roommate Karina Rosario go to The Thrill, a nightclub in downtown Chapel Hill. Security cameras inside the club record them there. The footage shows them both leaving together in the early hours of September 7th, heading back to their off-campus apartment. Karna leaves the apartment sometime after 4 in the morning. She says she believed Faith was asleep. When Karina comes back later that morning, she finds Faith in the bedroom. She calls 911 and tells the dispatcher there is blood everywhere. Faith had been beaten to death with a liquor bottle and sexually assaulted. On the bed, investigators find a handwritten note on a takeout bag. The note says, "I'm not stupid, I jealous." It was written after the attack because there's no blood on it. Whoever killed her took the time to write that note before leaving. Investigators collect DNA from the scene, from the rape kit, from the bottle, and from the pen used to write the note. They start comparing it to everyone who might have been connected to Faith. Over the following years, they compare it to more than 200 different people. None of them match. The case goes cold. What makes the Faith Hedgepeth case so haunting is how much evidence there was from the very beginning, and how long it still took to get an answer. Investigators had DNA. They had fingerprints. They had security camera footage from the club. They even had a recording accidentally captured when Faith's phone pocket-dialed a friend that night, where audio experts later claimed to hear voices and what sounded like Faith in distress. And still, for 9 years, the case sat open. In 2016, investigators used the DNA to build a physical composite of the suspect, predicting hair color, skin tone, and ancestry. It pointed to someone of likely Latino or Native American descent. More tips came in, none of them led anywhere. Then in 2021, a man named Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares was pulled over for a drunk driving stop in Durham. His DNA was taken, and it matched the DNA from Faith's apartment. He was 28 years old at the time of his arrest. 9 years earlier, he had lived near the apartment complex where Faith was killed. Investigators found that his palm print matched the print on the wine bottle found at the scene. The DNA from the rape kit matched. The DNA from the pen that wrote that note matched. He was charged with first-degree murder, rape, and burglary. As of now, the case is still working its way through the courts, with a trial expected in 2026. Faith was 3 weeks away from her 20th birthday when she was killed. Her father, Roland, stood at a press conference in 2021 when the arrest was announced and said, "I want to thank God for allowing me to see this day." 9 years he had waited to say that. Do you think cases like Faith's would be solved faster today with the surveillance technology we have now? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there.